You got to have a root system. That's the thing that causes the redwoods of California to grow so tall. One of the elements is their intricate root systems, how they are interwoven. Their roots are not so deep, but they spread out and they are connected. They're connected. They go out vertically, horizontally as opposed to vertically. And that's what has given them the ability to weather the storms. Where they're not toppled is because of how their roots grow out and connect with each other. They are connected in a network of mutuality. It creates a community among the redwoods, and it causes them to grow so tall. And so when you have no root system, you end up producing fruit for a season. We had a tree that overturned in our yard. It was uprooted from the ground. And when the spring came, this tree was still laying out there, and it actually blossomed. But the next year it didn't. See, you'll still produce fruit for a season. You can be pulled up and uprooted from your spiritual life, but if you stay disconnected, it'll show. It will show. So this is why it says, as you were rooted, be built up. Be built up. And to the degree that you go down, your roots go down, it determines how tall you're able to go up. You can look at the footings of a building when somebody is building a building, and you can tell by the foundation the size of the structure basically that they're going to build on that thing. It's determined largely by the roots. And this is why Psalms chapter 11 and verse 3 says that if the foundations be destroyed, what can the righteous do? Even righteous people, if they have these foundations are not laid in their life, it's not enough just to get saved. You got to be rooted and built up so that you bear the fruit. Herein is my Father glorified, that you bear much fruit. And then notice number 3, as you were taught, be established in truth. As you were taught, be established in truth. Notice Acts chapter 16, verse 4 and 5. And as they went through the cities, they delivered to them the decrees to keep, which were determined by the apostles and elders at Jerusalem. So the churches were strengthened in the faith and increased in number daily. Notice, they were strengthened in the faith because of the apostles' doctrine or teaching. They were taught and they were strengthened and increased. They grew thereby. Without being taught and established, it is very easy to be uprooted and deceived. So the world needs people who have received from Christ and live in Him, who are rooted in Him and built up, and who are taught and established in doctrine. Because somebody else of another faith can come and uproot you if you're not strongly taught. You've got to be taught the truth. The truth is the measuring rod to which we bring anything. And that's why Paul said, listen, if anybody come to you preaching any other gospel other than this that we have laid into your life, this doctrinal truth here, he says, let it be a curse to you. Just throw that thing out. Throw it out. It is interesting that when these three things happen in the life of a believer, there is a fire that catches on in a person and allows them to transform their world. I mean, a real fire. When you receive Christ and live in Him, when you're rooted in Him and you're built up, and then when you're taught and you're established, that makes you a dangerous Christian in the hands of God. It makes you dangerous to the devil. W.E. Sangster, he was once interviewing applicants for the Methodist ministry when an interesting young man presented himself before the committee. The young man, he felt it necessary to explain to the people that he was applying for this ministry position, but he felt it necessary in being authentic, the autos gentes. He just felt it necessary to explain to them that he was a shy person, and he said, I am not the kind of person that would set the Thames River on fire. And so Dr. Sanger responded to him. He said, my dear young brother, he said, I'm not interested to know if you could set the Thames on fire. He said, what I want to know is this. If I picked you up by the scruff of your neck and dropped you into the Thames River, would it sizzle? He said, I'm not looking for somebody to set the river on fire. I'm looking for somebody who's on fire themselves. And that's exactly what God is looking for. People who have been in contact with the God who is a consuming fire. At every place that they go, that they will be the John Wesleys of their generation. That people will come to see you burn, just to see you burn. In Colossians chapter 2, verse 8 through 10 says, beware lest anyone cheat you through philosophy and empty deceit according to the tradition of men, according to the basic principles of the world and not according to Christ. For in him dwells all the fullness of the Godhead bodily, and you are complete in him who is the head of all principality and power. I want you to notice that same passage in the Message Bible. It says, watch out for people who try to dazzle you with big words and intellectual double talk. They want to drag you off into endless arguments that never amount to anything. They spread their ideas through empty traditions of human beings and the empty superstitions of spirit beings. But that's not the way of Christ. Everything of God gets expressed in him, so you can see and hear him clearly. You don't need a telescope, a microscope, or a horoscope to realize the fullness of Christ and the emptiness of the universe without him. When you come to him, that fullness comes together for you too. His power extends over everything. And I want you to understand here that when Paul talks about philosophy here, Paul is not putting philosophy down as a category of study, because philosophy, do you know what the word philo, it means love, and sophos means wisdom? A philosophy is the love of wisdom. It is the love of wisdom, philosophy. It's the love of wisdom. So Paul is not putting down philosophy as a whole, but if it's a philosophy, which is everything that has to do with the theories about God, the world, and the meaning of human life, was called philosophy. And if something came up against Christ that was not inclusive of Christ, that's the kind of philosophy. He's talking very specific of a certain kinds of philosophy that is in conflict with the philosophy of Christianity. Paul was warning the church at Colossae of the dangerous philosophy that was made up of the elements of Judaism and of the Greek Gnosticism. And the thing that most philosophy will do that gets people off track is that the philosophy mixes truth with a lie. And what happens is the way that the enemy does something is that he'll tell you the part that's true, and then he'll get you to say, you know, that's true. And since he gave me that part that's true, then we make the assumption that the other part is true also. And some of the most tricky questions on a test that are true-false questions are the ones where part of the statement is true and the other part is false. And if you make the mistake of saying, you know, well, this part is true, I know this part is true, but I'm not quite sure about this. But partial truth is a whole lie. If they give you part of this that's true, and then the other part is not true, the whole thing is false. A positive times a negative is a negative. And so you can't mix truth with a lie, because if we found out that something that Jesus told us was not true, then we'll start saying to ourselves, well, what else did he tell me that wasn't true? And it will undermine and erode our faith. And sometimes that's what the devil's tactic is to try to bring such doubt into your mind. We don't have to know everything. I don't know everything. I don't claim to know everything. I don't think we'll ever know everything, but we know the one who is omniscient. We don't have to know everything, but we trust the one who does. We trust him. We trust him. We don't know how God's going to work everything out in our life. That's why we have to trust him. If you knew everything, you'd never have to trust God. You'd never have to trust him where God says, I got you. I got you. I got your back. I see what you're dealing with. I see what you're coming up against. I see who's trying to come against you. But God says, listen, don't worry. I got a plan. I'm going to get you out of there. I'm going to get you out. You know, if you've ever had somebody that you love incarcerated, you can't just go down there and just Tell them, look, that's my child, that's my relative. You open the door, let them out. Tell them the auntie is out here. No, you got to tell them I'm working on something. I'm going to get you out of there, baby. I'm going to get you out. You just keep hope alive. Keep hope alive. I'm going to get you out of there. I'm going to get an attorney. I'm going to get you out of there. I'm going to get you out. And God is saying, listen, I'm going to get you out. Some of the greatest lessons that we need to learn are learned in places of concrete authority, of where you're put in a situation and your hands are tied. They temper your spirit. It produces a humility and a trust in God. You get a hold of some stuff, God lets that thing become a defining moment for you. You don't understand why you have to go through what you go through, but once you get out of that and you look back, then you'll understand what he was doing. And you'll understand why he didn't rush to get you out real quick. He will let them heat the fire up 7 times hotter. You just be praying, oh God, oh God. Oh God, because you feel like you're going to die, but God, he won't even tell you what he's going to do. He'll let them heat the fire up. When the door opens, you will feel the heat. I mean, the guys that threw them in died. It was so hot. He let them go into the fire. And then they put in 3, but they looked through the window and they said, there are 4 in there. And they went into the fire bound. But when they came out, they were loosed. In fact, he didn't wait until they got out of the fire to make them loose. When they looked through the window, they discovered that did not we put 3 in bound and we see 4 loosed? He will loose you in the fire. There's some stuff that's going to get off of you that is demonic. May I tell you why? Because whenever you carry demons around you, on you, and then you get in fire, the fire is where demons belong. So you drop them off in their place of abode. That's why he let you go through the fire. You wonder why you had to go to hell and back? Because you had a special delivery that was riding your back, and you had to shake them off. I'm just telling you that there's some things that we are complete in him, and there's an understanding that he will get. He'll bring this thing to make you, I'm just telling you, you're not going to understand it all, but if you trust him, if you trust him, there's some hot situations, there's some hot water that you'll be in, but I'm telling you, God's got a plan to get you out of there. And the very thing that you thought that was going to kill you or cause you to kill somebody else, he will save you, he will deliver you, he'll get you loosed of the opinions of man, loosed of bitterness, loosed of resentment, loosed of jealousy and animosity. You get loosed in the fire. He gets you loose from everything that was binding your life, the jealousy, the animosity, the envy, the insecurity. He will get you loose while you're in the fire. When you come out of that thing, I'm telling you, you'll realize God has done a work. He has done a work in me. And the very thing that was riding you that was demonic becomes dropped off in its place of delivery. And so you never know that God is using you to drop demonic things that have been riding your life off in the fire where they belong. Where they belong. And you come out of the fire. And the good thing about it is that when God brings you out of it, he brings you out in such a way that your clothes are not singed. You don't smell like smoke. You don't look like smoke. And people, when you give your testimony, they will never believe that you have been through what you've been through as a testimony to the glory of God the Father.
Thank you for watching Power for Living with Bishop Dale C. Bronner.